god, the PC. This'll be a good one. Then again, consoles can be the same way if the wrong thing is said. I don't know why, but there's something about the battle of PC versus console that doesn't seem right. Almost like a battle that doesn't really exist. Not with any companies anyway. Who's really fighting with the PC? Nintendo doesn't seem to really care. They have a console and a handheld to worry about. Sony isn't really competing with them, and right now they have to worry more about their handheld, and whatever the hell plans they have for their next console. Microsoft damn near owns the PC world. If anything, they'd be fighting against themselves. So this means the PC is a machine that can outperform any console, has a lot of the multiplats the consoles have, and in some cases can even manipulate the consoles, and the console companies don't even give it a second look? The biggest problem I see is before a company sees the PC as a threat to consoles, a company would have to first figure out a way to make the PC a threat to consoles. So the real question isn't why some people still prefer consoles over the PC. It's what does the PC have to do to put itself in the mix with consoles so people change their mind about the PC? Because as of right now, with all of the things the PC can do, quite a few gamers still could care less. Someone's gonna have to figure out a way to put the PC into the console war. The console and the PC. Two completely different aspects forced to compete with each other through the idea that one was part of a war that's been going on since the 1970s. A battle of intense competition for market share between video game console manufacturers. However, I never really saw the PC as part of this console war. Why? Well, there's something about the PC that just doesn't seem to fit here. To explain this first, let's make sure that when I say war, we're all thinking of the same type of war. I'm referring to the war that involves gaming companies, not the one that involves gamers. In other words, in this case, I'm referring to the group that plays the bigger role. The PC versus console battle we have right now only involves gamer versus gamer. But what it really needs to be in order to make the PC a true threat is company versus company. But what company is willing to take that job? Hell, what company can take that job? As we all know, the PC isn't something you can just take over. At least not as a whole. But who says it can't be done with one part? I'll explain that later. So what exactly is the problem with the PC? Yeah, we all know that some people like it and others don't. However, some people liking it and some not doesn't always give away a PC's advantages or disadvantages. If anything, it actually does nothing more than create a battle we've already seen. Mine is better than yours. We have to actually look past that, which means 4 things need to be removed from our heads. I love PCs, I love consoles, I hate PCs, and I hate consoles. Each one of these ways of thinking will do nothing more than create biased answers to problems by using the advantages of what you like over the disadvantages of what you hate. So what's wrong with the PC? Well, first ask yourself this question. What is the main reason why one buys a PC? It's not really easy to answer that. What's easy to answer is why you would buy a PC. But there's no real answer as to why people like the PC simply because it does too many different things. But if I ask you guys why one buys a console, normally you'll get one main answer. For gaming. It's true that this generation and last generation, consoles are starting to get more than one job. But the difference here is that even with the consoles, this generation being able to do so many different things, their main job is set in stone. Gaming. The PC's job is not set in stone. That's why more often than not, gamers don't say, I have a PC, they say, I have a gaming PC. But you don't hear people say, I have a gaming PS3. Even if the person who buys it strictly for Blu-ray movies, its main job is still seen as gaming. Now, this sounds like a pretty pathetic argument, doesn't it? Who cares if it's called a gaming PC? Why does that even mean anything? Well, this is actually where the first problem comes in. Machine label. First, don't assume that all PC gamers and all console gamers are the same. For a lot of gamers, these two machines have an opposite label. This is a gaming machine that just so happens to do other things, while this is a machine that can do other things and one of them just so happens to be gaming. Thus, it must be wiser to buy the machine that has the main job of what I want. A lot of people see the PC as jack of all trades, master of none. But there's a problem with that, isn't there? When built right, it is the master. It can do anything a console can do but better, and yet it's still not a threat to consoles. This is where the second problem comes into play: console companies. In the world of gaming, the PC's biggest strength, sadly, is also its biggest problem. Yes, a lot of us are aware of what the PC is capable of, but our knowledge of the PC means absolutely nothing to these three companies. And the gaming PC's main problem is that it's not competing against the one thing that it actually should be: consoles. And no, I don't mean YouTube videos telling people why it's better. Hardcore fans in most cases are actually the worst people to ever try to get people to like something. If you don't believe me, just think of a hardcore fan of a console you don't like or a PC. Did this person convince you to get it, or actually make you happy you stayed the hell away from it? In order to really get people to want a gaming PC, a company's gonna have to come along and show people what it really does in a more advertising way. This will then get the console companies to fight back. Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft aren't going to fight against YouTube PC fans as they're not a threat. But if you bring a company into the mix to fight against them, that's a whole different story. So one of the main reasons why the PC can't be taken serious to those that really don't know what all it can do is because a lot of the people that represent them aren't taken serious. So the PC can be a threat to consoles, but it's going to need a real representative. One problem seems to be when PC knowledge gets mixed in with console knowledge. That is, when one believes that something the PC can do should also be done on a console. The people that were complaining about the graphics card that was said to be used for the next Xbox weren't thinking about other consoles, they were thinking about PCs. I.e., if random PC gamer uses graphics card A, then Microsoft's next Xbox must at least use graphics card B. That way of thinking would have put consoles out of business a long time ago, as the only people that would be happy would be the people that are using something that console companies aren't even competing with. If Microsoft were competing with the PC, then every complaint made would have been understandable. People's knowledge of the PC seems to make them care more about the hardware of the next generation consoles and not the games themselves. Don't let your knowledge of the PC ruin an experience for you. Its hardware isn't supposed to live up to your expectations, its games are. It's been that way since the beginning. While I wasn't alive when it happened, I'm pretty sure the gaming crash of '83 didn't happen because gamers didn't like the hardware being used on the consoles. Another thing that'll actually make Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo care about the PC is when a big majority of their console fanbase start to actually care about the PC and the companies feel that they need to do something or they could end up losing that fanbase. They don't have to worry about that happening with the way things are right now, mainly because console fans and PC fans seem to hate each other the same way console fans hate other console fans. But the outcome isn't the same, and this hate creates a circle that in a way is actually helping the console companies. The circle works something like this. It starts out with your typical console fan argument. Wah wah, my console is better than yours, wah wah. The fan of the other console then replies, wah wah, my console is actually better than yours, wah wah. This is your typical YouTube console battle. Now normally this just goes on and on until both get bored, but sometimes a trump card is played. This is when the argument is, wah wah, my console can do this better than your console can, and the trump card is, wah wah, not as good as the PC can. Once this trump card gets played, it's rather difficult to win. In more cases than not, the PC card isn't played by an actual PC gamer, but instead a fan of a console that lacks a feature the other console has. Think of it like this. A PS3 fan tells a 360 fan, my console has an internet browser. 360 fan replies, yes, but not as good as a PC browser. In this case, the 360 is completely ignored by its own fan. In a lot of cases, the PC will actually get brought into the console war, but not in a way that makes it a threat to other consoles even in the YouTube console battle, but instead it's used as a way to make a console a person doesn't like look bad. This card has been played here on YouTube for a long time. Now, what makes this a problem is when an actual PC gamer does come into play. 360 fan says, my console can get on Twitter. PC fan laughs. PS3 fan says, my console can browse the internet. PC fan laughs again. Nintendo fan says, I have exclusive Nintendo games. PC Pirate Gamer smiles and says, so do I. Now at this point the PC fan should automatically win, but they can't, and the main reason is because they were never part of the battle. Their machine was nothing more than something used by a console fan to try and get another console feature to be seen as irrelevant when compared to it. If we, however, reverse this whole thing, it doesn't work the same way. PC fan says, our multiplats are cheaper. Console fan doesn't care. PC fan says, our version of multiplats look better. Console fan doesn't care. PC fan says, real gamers play on the PC. Console gamer replies, yeah, you keep telling yourself that. These arguments would work a lot better for a console going against another console, not only in the YouTube battle, but in the real console war. But it doesn't work the same way for a PC against a machine that it's clearly better than, but at the same time isn't really competing with. In other words, the PC gamers may be competing with the console gamers, however, their hardware is not. The difference between two console fans arguing and a PC and console fan arguing is that the PC fan can instantly end the argument. That's why even a console fan will use the PC in an argument sometimes. What this says is, somewhere in this circle is a way for the PC to truly be seen as a threat, which would also make its argument against consoles be taken serious. The only thing the PC seems to be a threat to when it comes to consoles are emulation and piracy. But console companies aren't going to fight that with games and features, they'll simply fight it with lawsuits. Like I said, a lot of us know exactly what the PC is and what it can do, but what we as fans know doesn't mean anything. A company is gonna have to use the PC's power in a way to get people that are not fans of consoles only to see what the PC can do. And I mean a real company, not that overpriced Alienware bullshit. A company that can show what the PC does without actually using a PC. In other words, the PC needs a console. Something that I would have thought would never work, until these guys came up with a damn good idea. Something that does exactly what a gaming PC does, but as a console. It's said that Valve is making a console based on PC architecture called Steambot. So if a console and PC had a baby, this is more or less what we'd end up with. Well, that or a complete mess. But what'll make this child so interesting is the fact that it's the PC's key to making its way into the console war, because its child will be in the console war by default. This will also mean that the Nintendo, PlayStation, and even Xbox could be in trouble, as while I don't see Microsoft competing with the PC, the Steambox, that's a whole different story. They would have to fight against the PC's positives and their own negatives. If a multiplat comes out on all consoles, the Steambox would have Steam on its side, which we all know the PC has but never meant anything to those who don't care about gaming PCs. People actually will start to think, why actually spend $59.99 for this game on this console when I can spend $39.99 on the Steambox? This means that it'll be a battle of exclusive versus multiplat, and the Steambox will have an advantage over multiplats thanks to its father. And we all know how important multiplats are in the gaming industry. This could end up having the Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox relying on exclusives only. I want to ask you guys a question. Looking at these three consoles, if the Steambox was released this generation, which of these consoles do you think would have been in trouble? We could probably take the Wii out since multiplats didn't really help it too much, if at all. But what about the PS3 and the 360? Would they have been okay? Any console that relies on multiplats may be in trouble against the Steambox. Do you know who else would be in trouble? Or rather more trouble than they'll be if the rumors about Microsoft and Sony's next console are actually true? These people. Because the one thing a lot of people argued about would actually happen. The Steambox would prove that consoles were in fact ready for digital distribution, which would create a battle of GameStop versus Steam. That would be interesting. If the Steambox does something that's a threat to the competition, and they have to fight against it, guess who else they're technically going to have to fight against? I'm reaching with this next one, but if the Steambox ends up being a huge success, that could end up making casual games the only safe route for the other consoles to take, especially if shooters continue to be the most successful genre. God, I hope they aren't. I don't see PlayStation, Nintendo, or Xbox beating Valve's console when it comes to multiplats. Too many people will go for the more powerful console with the cheaper games that they can get from their house. It'll be the console that Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft are trying to beat. I would have left Nintendo out of it, but it does look like they're going to try and get more multiplat support. Sadly, there's not enough information about this console to know what all it can do. But I believe Valve may be the PC's key to entering the console war, as they won't be fighting with words, they'll be fighting with actions. Valve could very well be that missing link that the PC needed to finally show what it's capable of doing to the consoles that have been ignoring it for so long. If you really want console companies to make their consoles have the best graphics, hardware, RAM, and processors, then first you have to make that a threat to them. As of right now, the PC isn't a threat, but Valve's console, that would not only be a threat itself, but would open some eyes up to the PC. Some may think, if the Steambox can do this, then its dad must be a real beast. Sony and Nintendo have had a lot of competition in the gaming world. but I believe this one may be their biggest one yet.